Hi there. Today, I've prepared something special for you. Something you've probably never seen before. I'm going to show you 3 knots, all of which were created fairly recently. And the third one, it's absolutely one of a kind. We'll talk about where and how you can use each of them. And of course, I'll walk you through how to tie them step by step. But before we dive in, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. I promise they'll be just as exciting as the ones before. You'd think that in the 21st century, with the internet and all our modern technology, everything useful would have already been discovered. But the truth is, that's not always the case. Sometimes, what's new isn't something complicated or high-tech. Sometimes it's a simple idea, one that's been sitting right in front of us all along. The knots I'm going to show you today are exactly that. They're simple by nature, but surprisingly unique. They're completely new. I couldn't find any real information about them online. They're not officially recognized or certified. They haven't stood the test of time, so I encourage you to use them with care and responsibility. Alright, the first knot is a variation of the classic figure 8. Essentially, it's a figure 8 with one extra wrap around the standing part. The creator of the knot called it the 28 knot, and honestly, I think it's a brilliant idea. At its core, it's still just a figure 8, only a little bigger, and that might come in very handy if you're looking for a larger stopper knot. You could even take it a step further and make something like a 38 if you really wanted to. But let me be clear, that's just my personal opinion. These knots haven't been tested over time, so please, keep that in mind, and always take your safety seriously. Now, let's take a moment to go back to the basics of topology. The strength of any knot is directly tied to how evenly the load is distributed across it. That's why, if you take a closer look, you'll notice that some of the strongest certified knots, like the Alpine butterfly or the figure 8 loop, don't have any sharp bends or abrupt angles. Instead, their structure is made up of smooth, flowing curves. And you know what? The knots we're talking about today, that exact same principle. That's the reason I wanted to share them with you. The second knot I'll show you today is based on the one we just covered. It's a fixed loop, and its name is the 28.5 loop. As you might have guessed from the name, this knot is a combination of the 28 knot and a half hitch. Here's how it works. Start by tying a standard 28 knot, then thread a bight through it. Here's something important to keep in mind. Take a close look at where the working end comes out. It must exit on the same side as the standing part of the rope. Now, another crucial detail. Wrap the working end in the direction of the knot and finish it off with a half hitch to lock everything in place. Personally, I really like this knot. It's simple and, in my experience, surprisingly reliable. But what really stands out is one special feature. It's easy to untie, even after bearing a heavy load. This kind of behavior is something we typically see in classic knots like the Bowline or the perfection loop. And here's what I love most. Watch how this knot vanishes without a trace when you undo it. The third knot I want to show you today is called the Ukrainian Knot. And honestly, I think it's a real discovery. As I mentioned earlier, the reliability of any knot depends on how well the load is distributed across it. And that's exactly why I believe this knot is a hidden gem. At first glance, you might mistake it for a perfection loop. But hold on, don't jump to conclusions. This is a completely different knot. It borrows the best features from several well-known designs. And for me personally, it became a favorite almost immediately. What makes it even more special is the quick release mechanism, a small detail that makes it incredibly practical and easy to use. Alright, here's how it works. Start by making a bight and placing it over the standing end. Then, create another bight on the working end and lay it underneath everything. Now, take the left loop, pass it into the right loop, wrapping it from underneath, and pull tight. Be careful to keep the rope from twisting. Precision matters, and it's important to follow the steps in the right order. I recommend practicing it a few times to memorize the sequence. You can also simplify the knot by skipping the quick release loop. And even then, this knot still comes apart easily thanks to the same natural release mechanism we talked about earlier. For me personally, this knot is just genuinely good. I've been tying and untying it for weeks now, and the more I use it, the more convinced I am that this one's a real gem. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback after you try them out. And maybe we're part of something bigger here, helping test these new knots against time, tension, and experience. And who knows what the future holds for them, but I believe it's going to be something exciting. In any case, I truly believe these knots deserve a place in your collection, and they just might come in handy in your everyday life. I'd really appreciate it if you shared your own experience with these knots down in the comments. And in the next video, we'll take a look at some rare and ancient knots, the kind that were almost lost to time. They were once widely used by our ancestors, and honestly, they deserve far more attention than they get today. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of it. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.